There are places in the American West where time doesn't just pass, it disappears. 15,000 years ago, I would have been camping 500 feet underwater at the bottom of a massive prehistoric sea called Lake Lahontan. Today, all that remains is this, a vast, silent alkali void known as Winnemucca Lake. I arrived late last night under the cover of darkness with no idea of the scale that surrounded me. But as the sun crested the Nightingale Mountains, the desert revealed its secrets. This isn't just a lake bed, it's a graveyard of history. From North America's oldest rock art to the skeletal remains of a forgotten mine empire. Over the next few days, I'm going to push north through the snow-dusted dunes of the Nightingale Range, chasing the ghosts of those that tried to tame this land, before finding my way to a town that refused to be swallowed by the sand. This is Recon America, presented by Onyx Offroad. Good morning. I am in western Nevada, and it is a brisk 22 degrees out here this morning in this incredible looking desert. This is the bottom of an ancient ocean, and over the next couple days I'm going to take you guys along as we go explore some areas of western Nevada where I have never been. And there is a lot of history out here, from the Native Americans to some industry that was essential to World War II. And we're going to go visit an old town which was a critical stop for the pioneers back in the 1850s. Yeah. We got here late last night and it was dark when we pulled up, so I had no idea what this place looked like. And what an incredible place. There's snow up in the mountains. There's still some patches of snow here on the ground. And when we woke up this morning, we actually saw something on the rocks over here. I got to show you. Now, when I was doing my research about this area, one of the things that I read about was to keep my eye out for some ancient art. Well, we woke up this morning and I let Luna out and I looked over on the rock right here next to the van and I'm like, man, I'm no archaeologist, but that looks like some ancient art. That's pretty crazy already. We've already found something. And you know what? There's a bunch of these big rock mounds. I think these are like tufa mounds. So I think maybe we're gonna walk around and let Luna get a little exercise and see if we can find any more. And then we'll pack up and head north, hit the trail, get dirty, and see what we find. Luna is just over a year old now and still full of energy, so I've got to let her run before we climb in the van. Walking around, I found several pieces of art out here, and while many petroglyphs date back a few thousand years, the ones found in this basin have been carbon dated to nearly 15,000 years ago. That makes these some of the oldest rock art in North America. They were carved into these tufa mounds by people who lived in a green, lush Nevada that has long since vanished into the dust. What an absolute privilege to be able to find some of this ancient art. And look, it looks old to me. It does not look like something that's been carved into these rocks recently. And some of the rocks have actually broken away where some of the art goes through. So, you know, these aren't going to last forever. And coming out here and being able to see them is, yeah, it's truly a privilege. Please, if you come out here, be respectful of these. They're not easy to find. You got to keep your eyes out. All right, time to pack up. We're going to head north. We're leaving the ocean floor behind and heading north. The plan is to link up a series of trails starting with the Winnemucca Lake Cave Trail and then cutting through a technical detour on the Narrows Trail and eventually pushing on to the School Bus Trail. Spoiler alert, the desert doesn't always give up what you're looking for, and those legendary buses remained a ghost on this trip. But what we found instead was far more interesting. Before Luna and I hit the pavement again, we'll have put down over 100 miles of dirt, and honestly, we barely scratched the surface of what's hidden out here. We've just paused here for a minute because There are a lot of tracks out here and you really have to pay attention. I've actually gone past a couple turns already. Thankfully, I've got everything marked on Onyx Offroad, and they are the sponsor of this Recon America series. And I have planned this entire route using some pre-planned waypoints and trails that are on Onyx. Also, I created my own route, which is going to take us from the west side all the way across to the east side, and it's a really easy tool. You know, it's nice to be able to use the curated trails, but it's also fun to use their mapping tool to kind of create your own route, and it'll take you automatically, it'll kind of find the best route for you, and it's a great tool for when you're out here. I've been using Onyx for a long time. It is a huge asset, and a big thanks to them for sponsoring this video. If you would like to get 20% off and try Onyx Offroad, I will leave a link down below. All right, we've got a long ways to go, guys. Drove past this massive sand dune out here, and there's a little bit of deep sand on the trail, but thankfully I'm four-wheel drive and air down, no problem. But it was interesting seeing snow on a sand dune. It was on the shaded side of the sun, but that's not something you see every day. I did not know what to expect out here. Sand dunes, snow, beautiful mountains. So far this place has turned out to be pretty good. Now up ahead, we are looking for an old mine where they were mining for tungsten. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get there. What a fascinating area. So behind us, we have mountains that have a dusting of snow on them. Then there's these brown and gray hills and mountains all around us, but off in the distance there's some black sand mountains, and then the lake has got this white layer across it. I don't know if that's calcium or calcite or whatever it is, but the geology contrast out here is very unique, not something that you see very often. Now we're getting ready to make a right turn off onto a trail called the Narrows, and we're going to be in search of the Nightingale Mine. That's our first stop for the day. That was a fun little drive through that valley, coming up the mountains. Nothing crazy, but there was a couple little ruts, some sharp rocks. You just got to watch your line a little bit. We've reached the Nightingale Mine, and I can see all kinds of ruins up here, and so we're going to go see what we find. Looking at these massive foundations today, it's hard to wrap your head around the scale of the operation that once thundered on the side of this mountain. The Nightingale district sparked to life in 1917, but they weren't chasing gold or silver, they were digging for tungsten. Men worked here in some of the harshest conditions imaginable, battling sub-zero winters and blistering desert summers to feed the industrial hunger. But by 1956, the market crashed, the lights were out, and the tungsten rush vanished, leaving the desert to slowly reclaim what's left of the Nightingale. Wow, I had no idea how extensive this mining operation was up here. This is a serious little setup down here that they had going on back during World War II. So the history is that we needed tungsten to make armor-piercing bullets to get through the German tanks. And so the miners out here were hot at work mining tungsten, which was a hot commodity. And the Germans were in short supply of tungsten, so they didn't have the armor-piercing ammunition like we had, and so we were able to take out quite a few of their tanks. So you could say that the miners up here helped win the war. This is a pretty cool find. I'm glad we came up here. The trail was starting to get a little iffy, but I'm glad we came up here all the way. This is pretty cool. I've come across a lot of abandoned mines over the years, but it's rare to find one on this scale in a location this remote. The logistics of building this out here in the early 1900s is just mind-blowing. And standing here now in the silence, you can't help but wonder what this canyon sounded like when the crushers were running and the trucks were moving. If only I could have seen this place in its full glory. What a fun place to check out. Okay, this was up and back for us, so we've got to backtrack about 45 minutes and catch the trail we were on this morning and keep heading north, and hopefully we've got more cool stuff like this to find. In a trip with so much ground to cover, every detour is a gamble. I almost opted out for this one just to keep the miles ticking away, but I'm so glad I didn't. Seeing the scale of the Nightingale firsthand was worth every minute. Now we're backtracking through the Narrows to link back up with the Winnemucca Trail. The clock is ticking, and we still have a lot of desert to cross before the sun goes down. Come down off the mountain and made the right turn, and we are back where we started earlier this morning on the Winnemucca Lakeshore Trail. So we're heading north once again, and there's actually another mine up here that looked like it was also a pretty big operation. So we're gonna check that one out. It didn't have a name, but I was able to find it on the Onyx satellite view, and so I think it's worth stopping and checking out. And then we're gonna head much further north, and I don't know where we're camping tonight. So we'll just kind of see where the trail takes us. Okay, we found the other, I don't know if this is actually a mine. I wonder if maybe this was some kind of ore processing plant or something. These are some big foundations. There's all kinds of pipes in here. I don't know, if anybody knows what this was, let me know down in the comments below. And unfortunately, some modern day artists have left their mark on here, but let's go check it out, see what we find. Even though we aren't high up in the mountains this time, building an industrial operation of this scale out here in the middle of nowhere was no easy feat. I'm sure there's a local history buff or someone in the area who knows the story of this specific spot. If you know what they were doing here, what this plant was called, I'd love to read about it in the comments below. So just walking around here, I don't see any mine shafts, although they may be up in the hills. But there's another structure here on the backside of that main structure, and it's got this big metal chute that comes down through here. Just makes you wonder, like, what kind of work was going on here. And man, the conditions out here just must have been brutal. I mean, I mentioned how cold it was this morning, so winters are no joke, and of course summers out here have just got to be 120 degrees plus. So out here working these mines, processing ore, man, that was rough work. This is as good a spot as any to stop, take a break, have a little snack, and let Luna continue to run around and check things out. I was just thinking, what an incredible day so far. I mean, getting to camp in the dark last night, I had no idea what today was going to be, and then waking up at that beautiful spot, having that ancient art right there. That was really cool. And then the mine, and then this old ruin here. We're just lots of cool finds out here. But what's really taken me aback a little bit is the scenery. I did not expect it to be this beautiful out here. This has like Death Valley vibes. I mean, you could mistake this place for Death Valley. It's beautiful. And I'm looking forward to seeing what's in store for us as we continue to head further north. But right now, I can take a little break and soak it all in. There was a little left turn off the trail that came down towards the dry lake bed. And I was like, oh, let's see if we can get close to it. And well, the tracks just kind of stop right here and it's just all overgrown. Although I can see some tire tracks way out there. I had no interest in driving out on that lake bed because I've seen too many horror stories of people breaking through the crust and getting stuck. But I thought it'd be kind of neat to get close to it and just see what it looks like. But looks like that's not gonna happen. So we're gonna turn around and keep on going. All right, I've been cruising along for a good hour now since leaving that last little mine area. And the trail has been different. You know, every once in a while it just opens up, you're cruising right along, doing 15, 20 miles an hour, and then you hit a wash. Because there's a lot of these washouts that come from the mountains from all the water. And it slows you down. It slows you down quite a bit. Some of them are small, some of them are a little big. I did have to turn the locker on once, but that's just because I'm in a big old van. But it seems like now we're cruising along quite a bit, and there's potentially a camp spot about 10 miles ahead. I don't know. It is 3:30 in the afternoon, so we'll see how long it takes us to get there. But I gotta tell you, one thing I need to do is I need to revisit spending a little time on all the rattles and squeaks in this van, because it's gotten a little out of hand, and I probably need to do some adjusting of some stuff. But a little bit further to go, and then we'll start thinking about camp seriously. It's hard to believe we've had the van for over 3 years now. I still remember the day we brought it home. It was a huge adjustment in how we traveled the backcountry. You have to be a little slower and a little more deliberate. I've done a few upgrades with the team at Agile Offroad and have made it a little more confidence inspiring. But in terrain like this, I still have to remind myself to take it easy. At the end of the day, I have to remember it's not a Jeep. But for wide open desert trails and sub-freezing nights in the desert, this is a great rig. All right, we're cruising down the mountainside here, and there's a small little trail that comes up to this cave. And well, I know Luna could afford to stretch her legs, and I could too. So we're gonna go see what's up there. Hopefully there's no mountain lions in there. Well, this was worth the stop and the climb up here. This is really unique. I've never seen like rock formations on the bottom like this. And there's actually a little section where you can go up into it, and then it opens up into this big cavern in there, and there's a little tiny skylight. Of course, I didn't bring my headlamp, but it's pretty unique, and it makes you wonder, like, ancient people could have been using this as a shelter. I think it would make it a great shelter. Plus, it's got an incredible view up here, so worth the stop. But got a couple hours of daylight left. We need to get going. All right, we've made our way off the lake trail, and now we're heading east, and I'm on a pretty well maintained pole line road. And so now we're finally picking up the pace. I had thought maybe I would camp at the end of the lake, but it's 4:30, and with this pace on this road, I think there's a camp spot about 12 miles from here, and if it stays like this, well, we should be able to get there well before dark. Fingers crossed. Well, I made it to camp before dark, just barely. The sun has already set. In fact, there was a gorgeous sunset coming down, and it would have been nice here to come here and enjoy it, but I think we're gonna get a pretty good sunrise. Now, there are a handful of spots that I saw along the trail on this BLM area, and this one you don't really know until you get here, but it's actually pretty steep. I was hoping we could be tucked in over those rocks back there, but it's just not level up there. So there's one little spot right here that's just level enough. And that works. That's all Luna and I need. Now it is 35 degrees outside right now. So I'm gonna go inside. I'm gonna start the diesel heater and I'm gonna cook a little dinner and stay nice and warm. And then tomorrow morning, we're gonna head out east. We don't have long. In fact, I would expect it to only take us about an hour to get to town. And then I'm really excited to go see this town where a lot of pioneers made an important stop. It is so peaceful and quiet out here. What a beautiful morning. And I've just been sipping on my coffee and reminiscing about yesterday, and I've decided this is a place worth coming back to probably multiple times. First of all, I didn't expect it to be so incredibly gorgeous. Second, there are a lot of trails out here worth going and venturing off into, because I know that there's a lot more history out in this area. I've been to Nevada a few times, and every time I've enjoyed it, but I've never been to this area, and now I just want to come back again. Yeah, pretty incredible. Last night wasn't quite level, but you know, sometimes you just got to compromise. And the good news is it's like 31 degrees this morning, so it's a little warmer than it was yesterday morning. I'm gonna finish the coffee. I'm gonna let Luna get out some energy, and then we're heading east. We're heading into town and see what we find. Okay. Well, I'm off the trail and I'm here at the town of Lovelock, Nevada. And when I was doing my research on trying to find a cool little town to go visit after we came off the trail, Lovelock just stood out. This town has a lot of history and it has been very resilient. This town was, back in the 1850s, was a very important stop for pioneers that were traveling to California. This was the last place you could get water and the last place where there was grass for your animals to graze before crossing 40 miles through the barren desert. And 40 miles today doesn't seem like much, but back then, when you're traveling in a wagon, yeah, that was tough. So that's how Lovelock was kind of started. And then the railroad came through, and now it sits here on the side of the freeway, and it's a frequent stop for a lot of travelers. So it should be a cool little town. It's got some little quirks to it, so let's go see what we find. Driving into Lovelock, you quickly realize this isn't a tourist destination. It's a quiet, hard-working American town. It's got that classic Nevada feel where the pace is slow and the history is literally baked into the brick. With a population of around 1,800, it's the kind of place where things don't change much. You'll see plenty of closed shops and quiet corners, but that's part of its character. It feels honest. We're heading over to the Marsen House Museum first. It's an old 1870s ranch house that's been preserved, right on the edge of town, and it's the perfect spot to get a feel for the families that built this community from the ground up. We stopped here at the Marsen House Museum, and the volunteer inside, her name is Kelly, super nice. She gave me a little tour, allowed me to do some filming, and man, they got some really cool stuff in here. But what caught my eye especially was there's an old x-ray machine from the 1920s, and there was an original Cadillac ambulance, unrestored. Plus there's all kinds of other cool stuff here. Let me show you around and show you what they got inside. And oh, by the way, this place is apparently haunted. That's right, I said haunted. This house was actually featured on Ghost Adventures, and they've even got a creepy looking doll holding an EMF meter that supposedly goes off all the time. If you're into that kind of thing, they run ghost tours here pretty often. But even if you don't believe in ghosts, the house itself is a quiet little time capsule filled with incredible 1900s antiques that tell the story of the early life in Nevada. One of my favorite spots here, of course, was the garage, that pristine Cadillac ambulance. Plus, they had a couple of beautifully restored fire trucks. The volunteer here, Kelly, told me that despite their age, every one of these vehicles still runs perfectly. Outside, the vibe changes to what I call desert art. There are rows of rusty artifacts and old cars that definitely don't run anymore, but they look incredible. There are also tributes to the people who built this area, a blacksmith shop, mining equipment, and displays honoring the Native American history of the basin. You could easily spend a couple hours here. It's absolutely worth a stop, especially if Kelly is there. She's a sweetheart and gave me a personal tour, and I got the feeling that she treats just about everyone who walks through the door like a local. There's a little interesting tradition here in Lovelock. So we are behind the courthouse, and there are all these pillars with all these chains on them with thousands of these padlocks on them. Well, the tradition is that couples come here and they lock one of these locks on there, symbolizing their love, and then they throw away the key for an endless lock of love. I didn't bring a lock because, well, I feel like that's something I should do with Regina with me, but also we've been married for over 30 years, and I don't think I need a lock to solidify the fact that we're gonna be married for another 30 more, but this is a pretty cool little Lovelock tradition. What a neat little thing. These locks are actually all over town. By now, I was ready for some lunch. There's a few spots to grab a bite to eat in Lovelock, but Temptations had great reviews. And once I stepped inside, I could see why. It's got a really welcoming hometown vibe that makes you feel like you're a local the second you walk through the door. One thing I'll add is everyone that came through the door seemed to know everybody else's name. Well, except mine. All right, I'm here at Temptations, and I got the build-it-yourself panini. Look at all the ham they got in there. Oh yeah, this looks great. Oh yeah, that hits the spot. Well, Lovelock is a cool little American town with a little history and a little culture. What a pretty cool spot. If you are out here exploring some of the trails and you need to fill up for gas or a bite to eat, you should come here to Lovelock. And if you're with your wife, bring a lock and hook it up. All right, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this venture. I've had a blast out here. Please make sure you check us out over at TrailRecon.com. Maybe go pick up a hat, support the channel. And also, I will leave a link down below. You can get 20% off for Onyx Off-Road. Until next time, guys, safe travels.